Hi everyone, delonewolf here and welcome back to the Sunday recap, my weekly vlog where I talk a bit about my last week in games. And as always, we'll start with EVE Online, where I spent a slightly below average amount of time, I would say. I still did quite a couple of activities. I did a little bit of exploration, ran a couple of emerging conduits, and especially I did a little bit of trading. I sold some of the Tech 2 ships that I had bought, stuff like Basilisk, for instance, that I managed to grab one really on the cheap when the market was oversupplied and down substantially. I sold all of that at a decent profit, and I took my first gamble in a Tech 3 cruiser as well, because I bought a Legion hull on the massive decline that we saw after the hull got nerfed a little bit. I think it's all a little bit overblown, so I think I will make some profit on that as well. Overall, it's been a pretty good week in EVE Online. We also got that incredible news, of course, about a new state that is going to be introduced in the May release for structures. If something is not fueled or doesn't consume any fuel, the structure doesn't consume any fuel for 1 week straight, they become abandoned, which means that you can get through the whole structure in a single session. I saw on the stream that it should take like around 1 hour though at the damage cap, so not that easy. It takes quite a bit of a commitment, but you can get potentially rewarded, of course, because there will be no more tethering, so defending that is going to be a lot more difficult. And very importantly, no asset safety. Anything that's in the structure, regardless of which space it's in, is going to be dropped then. So I think that that is going to help a lot with the cleanup in EVE Online. And my stuff is fueled, so it doesn't really affect me that much. I think it's a pretty good solution to try and counter the bloat of abandoned structures. At this point, I have to be honest, if I had an abandoned structure somewhere like 10-20 jumps out or even more than that, I would just leave it be rather than have to organize a trip there, have to time everything correctly with the way unanchoring works and things like that. So overall, really good change. I look forward to seeing that implemented in the game. Of course, I also kept up with my PI. Haven't done any sales there for a little bit of time, so I think I am going to have to empty my planets at some point, bring all of that to Jita and see what is worth selling, because the PI market in general is struggling a little bit. Stuff like coolants which I'm producing are definitely down in price. It's gonna be difficult to get the average sale prices there, but other stuff is doing well, so we'll see. I'll need to take a PI trip in one of the upcoming weeks as well, I think. And then of course the blueprint copy business, that is doing very well, I would say, to my surprise. I'm selling almost all of those BPCs within a week. Stuff like the Orca, the freighters are still selling really well, and even the structures, for some reason I am able to get rid of those pretty effectively. Now I do undercut decently aggressively when it comes to the structures, but overall, yeah, very happy with the turnover in my blueprint copy business as well. And so it's looking really good. Now all I need is the cherry on top, and that is CCP starting to come out with some story elements, of course, which should be coming in the May release as well. So looking forward to what comes next, very much so. And I'm continuing to enjoy the game, build up on everything, and be ready for the next phase there. Next up, we have a little bit of Path of Exile. I did play some of my characters a little bit more, just trying to, get them through that final labyrinth, for instance, seeing what the final ascendancies can do. And I still actually have to do that for the character that you're seeing in the background here. It's an elementalist that uses the Archmage support to try and get as much damage out of a ball lightning as possible, that then has a greater multiple projectiles to really try and clear out big parts of the screen in like one cast. Spell Echo, so it's always 2 waves that hit through everything. It is pretty good in the sense that it clears maps very efficiently. It's a lot of damage, and almost nothing can survive the double tidal wave that you create this way, but it is completely lacking in tanking capabilities, so I haven't been able to actually complete the final labyrinth with that character just yet. Basically, always the Achilles heel whenever I play Path of Exile, that is the defenses. I guess I need to like study that a little bit more, maybe build up more layers. I know that stuff like block can be very effective, then you get evasion as well. I usually just go for the damage, which is good in softcore, but once you get to the harder content, it does mean dying rather quickly, and so that becomes a little bit of a problem. Still, I am impressed with this character in the sense that it really does work well in maps that aren't too hard. You just do a massive amount of damage in big waves ahead of you. That is very satisfying when there's some decent amount of mobs in range. It just all gets washed away by these ball lightnings. Very cool, very fun. Overall, this league, I would say that it has stabilized now, and I can enjoy still playing the game a little bit, but unfortunately the first part of the league was a little bit unstable with often crashing and things like that for me, so that was a little bit of a problem that meant that I didn't feel like I had the drive to go through crashes when I'm doing more difficult maps with characters that I'm trying to build up, and as a result I gave up after a couple of weeks. Now I'm back just to play around with some other ideas and characters, but I don't see myself make any real pushes into Path of Exile at this point anymore. We'll be waiting for the next league, see what comes out of that, get another fresh start, and yeah, I still need to figure out what kind of a character I want to build there, and hopefully it'll be a little bit more stable this time. It is true that this mechanic basically it has an influence over the entire map that you're playing, lots of mobs, lots of effects, lots of stuff happening, and so some of the stuff was definitely crashing the game from me from time to time. That's all gone in my latest play sessions, but they basically do need to be a little bit careful when it comes to that. So at this point, yeah, maybe a little bit more here and there, but I'm mostly looking forward to the next league in Path of Exile. And that gave me a little bit more time to get back in some more X4, which I've been enjoying a lot as well with the Split Vendetta and with the 3.0 update. And this time I basically decided to continue the game. I often have altitis there where I have a new idea on how to build something up that I think is like safer, more efficient, whatever it is, or more fun to do. And then I often have that reset bug that I need to that itch that I need to scratch. But this time I continued on, and we built up a massive defensive station in a Teladi system that was constantly being invaded by Xenon forces, including a couple of destroyers that were like working on one of their trade stations, one of their major trade stations. So decided to counter that with a very large defensive station. It is very cool when you're standing on the docking bay, and then right next to that you've got a defensive platform that is firing at the Xenon that are flying around your station. That felt good. That's what I wanted to achieve there, to see how that works out, and it is very cool. On top of that, you can then increase the activity by putting up some production modules and things like that, assign some miners, assign some traders, and you've got constant activities around your docking base. Whenever there's Xenon in the system, your guns start to track them, start to fire at them. It is very cool, very satisfying to be the owner of that frontline station and to see all of that action around you from that first person perspective. Very cool. I'm absolutely loving X4 Foundations. There are some problems with that, but I don't want to spoil everything because I did make some videos on the progress there as well. But it is very cool. You can really do some crazy stuff with that. Someone also mentioned, well, is this like purely a management game? Well, you can play it like that, and I'm mostly playing it like that at the moment. But there's storylines in there. There's mission that you can do as well. You can choose a favorite ship, maybe give it a small but very fast escort as well. You don't always have to go for the biggest, the most efficient, the best way to do things. You can also try to have some fun. There's definitely some ships that can go really crazy and can do some really cool stuff, maybe even punch above their weight a little bit. That will depend on the research, which has now been completed. I've done all the research on this playthrough so far as well, and I'm not sure. I think you can like upgrade your shields and your weapons and things like that. Haven't done any of that just yet. I've mostly been focusing on the management aspect of X4 Foundations, but you can do a lot of stuff. It really is a lot like a sandbox, a single player sandbox, you know, unfortunately, but you know, that allows for quite a bit more, of course, when it comes to details, which is still, I mean, that map is so crazy cool. When you've got a couple of destroyers that are flying around your station, and it's then firing at Xenon that are coming in, you can see all of that in real detail. You can always just right click if you're in system external view, see everything that's happening from that perspective. It is really, really cool. I'm super impressed and having a lot of fun with X4 Foundations. Not a single moment of regret that I bought it and that I bought the expansion as well. And that was my last week in games, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, I'll see you next time.